Salette, and I am your host today of the Triune Life conversation. Speaking words that you can live, making a difference. And I appreciate you so much being right here. We're sharing a word that you can live. I'm just so happy to be back. All right. So, for those of you that had chimed in or were waiting, we apologize, but here we are now. Like nothing ever happened, baby. This is what it's all about. All right, let's go ahead on and pray. Father, we thank you and praise you now with everything being okay. Even when we can't see it, can't feel it, can't sense it, and we feel like we've been forgotten, thrown away, or told to get in the back. We appreciate all that you are in us. Yeah, in Christ's name. Amen. All right, so let's get into it. We're talking about the triune life. In this the next couple of sessions, maybe 3 Sundays, I'm going to talk about my brokenness. To give you an example, toward the end of this series, when we talk about triune repair, we want you to know that you're not alone. We're not here speaking something that is not relevant, something that is not it's just a theory. I want to break down for you some of my own brokenness. And at the end of this series, one of the things we'll talk about at the end of the series is repairing that triune life. But I don't want to come off as though it's all about a concept. I speak from experience. I speak from the things that have broken me. I have an amazing story. Some people are offended by my story because they see it their way, but I was there. You know what I mean? Aren't you always curious about people who have a spin on your story? Oh, it wasn't that bad, or that didn't really happen. You know what I mean? And then try to make you feel like, oh, well, too bad. Hey, everybody has a story. Get at the business of telling yours, whether you're writing it, singing it, sharing it, speaking it, whatever. Get at the business of sharing your story. This is one of the, I'm cheating, but this is one of the triune repairs that you can utilize. Tell your story. Tell it wisely. Tell it wisely, but tell it. And nobody deserves the gritty details of all of what you're going through, because they wouldn't see you at the same value again. So you tell the peripheral of your story. I don't know why I'm saying that, but I'm saying that for somebody. I hope that you can stop hiding now. Stop feeling ashamed. Stop feeling I'm going way ahead of myself. So let's get in today. We're talking about the soul. That's what we're talking about. All right. So let me push this up there for you. The soul is the first place we'll start. Then we'll go into the spirit. Then we'll go into the body. In fact, hopefully next week we can talk about the body if we're done talking about the soul, like on today, right? But the soul is often broken. The soul is often in pieces. My soul was broken very early in life. Let me say that again. My soul was broken early in life. And I did not have the luxury of knowing what was going on until I was older and sought help, which is another thing we could talk about. But mental health is real, even for the best of us and also for the rest of us. Mental health is real. It's not a concept. It's not a theory. You have to have skilled professionals to bounce your thought processes off of, to engage in the healthy practices of who you are becoming. I felt some push me right there. Who you are becoming, not who you are, but who you are becoming, because we should always be becoming and not just being. I felt some push me right there. All right. So my brokenness started. Let's see if I can get my notes to work right today. My brokenness started. By the way, don't forget now, we really, really need you. We need you. We need you. We need you really, 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 really seriously. So please subscribe, share, leave a comment, and you can sponsor us on here. You can sponsor a show. Imagine that. Yes. So if you're not on HAPS TV, you need to tell somebody, if you're not going to get on it, that you can get on here and sing. You can get on here and do all kinds of things. Me, I'm a speaker. I'm thinking about doing a karaoke show though. Put a shout out in the comments if you down with that. But I've got some things working, you know what I'm saying? So I don't just talk, I sing as well. But yeah, we need you. So please keep this in mind. But my brokenness, let's get back to that. My brokenness, it was phenomenal. Starting in my soul. You're going to love today's broadcast if I can get my graphics right. Let's start right here. It starts with my memories. Yes, my memories. As a child, I used to think that my whole family was on TV. I don't know why I thought that. And that just also goes to show you that I was thinking about media very early in life. No one fostered that, but my school teachers, writing for the Cleveland Press, which is out of circulation now. Back when I was in the 8th or 9th grade, I forget which one. But the memories haunt us all if we're not in therapy. Memories. I don't want to go too deep into that because I could go deep into memories, but I will say this, talking about repairing a little bit in this area. I will say this. The best way to overcome bad memories is to create new ones. Sounds simple, right? But it's not that simple. But that's a start. If you want, like when I went into broadcasting, I went into broadcasting to create memories and reminders of who I was at that time, 10 years ago, becoming, and who I am now still becoming, to keep pushing new memories so that, and new conversations, so that you're not overwhelmed with the original you where you started before and after the trauma. I felt something push me. Trauma breeds memories. This gets us all in trouble. What do you remember about X, Y, and Z? And I don't begin to ask questions because I'll go in so fast. You know what I mean? What do you remember about? What do you remember about? And we can all start. Well, not all of us, because some of us dare not cry. We are so stubborn and so bullish that we're all that in a bag of chips. And that's literally true. But for some of us who are transparent in interpersonal development, memories can be a trigger for many of us. So let me start out by talking about the soul. The soul is the will, the mind, and the emotion. So when I talk about my triune brokenness, I'm talking about things within my soul, within my mind, within my will, within my emotions that kept me off balance, that kept me imbalanced, that kept me from a settlement of confidence and esteem and self-concept. The will, the mind, emotions. Talking about Marcus now, number one up is what? My emotions. My emotions. We talked about memory just briefly, but them emotions. That can be another area where triune unity or unity in your triune self is not balanced or not healthy or not working because the management of our emotions from trauma in particularly. Any kind of trauma. It doesn't mean something bad happened. It could be your grandfather. I remember when my grandfather died, it was very emotional for me. He was a man of few words. He was a man of few. I'm talking about my step grandpa, and I didn't know my real grandpa, but he said few words. I just respected him on a different level. But our management of our emotions is critical. We risk running amok without someone else, whether it be a book, audio book, reading a book, therapist, group therapy, group support. We spend too much time in church. I'm just saying we can become placated. We can become I think we spend too much time in church. I don't think that I'm not one to believe, right, that the church today is what it should be. The last I checked, the healthiness that I came from was church, but the difference for me was group therapy, finding people who were going through like I did, finding people who had emotional challenges like I did, maybe differently, but this emotional thing, I'm going to break this down to you today, and hopefully I'll be able to finish, right? I'm going to break it down to you. Let's start off with just mental, okay? Let's start off with mental, right? Your mental capacity. this this is such a deep subject. Your mental capacity to handle trauma and to handle drama and to handle life without the two, because they're always going to be there. They're always coming from somewhere or somebody, all of the above. And so our mental capacity can be challenged when we start off in life as a child, traumatically divided within ourselves. Whatever the reason, you could have somebody in your life that never talked to you. That's traumatic. Children need to be talked to. You could have somebody that never hugged you. That's traumatic, even more, because that could explain why you're so cold. You're so tough. You're so nonchalant with life, the frailties or the sensitivities, because no one touched you when you were growing up. No one touched you appropriately. Let me throw that in. So our mental capacity within our soul, right, could be messed up. It could be off balance again. If your mental is off, your life will be off. And most of us are living an off life. We're not dead living beyond survival. We're living an off life, a life for others, a life in the name of, a life that I heard about. We're not creating and building a life that I copied. Mental capacity. Now I got to move fast, right? So let's start off with one of my mental capacity problems, right? Let's start off with that. Mine, depression at an early age. At an early age, I've been struggling with depression for decades. For decades. I could give you the reasons why. Some of them I'll give you, some of them I won't, because I want to be transparent, but I don't want to lay all my life out there and you'd be confused. How is he making it? How is he thriving? How can he be happy in the midst of? I take medication. I pray. I check in. Only less than a handful of people that I check in with, but I do check in. Why? Because we know depression thrives in isolation. As a child, I was isolated multiple times. The majority of my life as a child was about isolation. And we'll talk about that later. Punishment came through isolation. You can't go. You have to sit. You go in your room. Isolation supported that's not even to talk about my thoughts. And why am I so smart anyway? Because I was isolated so much, I just leaned on reading words that I couldn't pronounce. I was a dictionary guy. Call me Mr. Dictionary when I was a kid. I would look a word up. I would read things beyond my grade. I didn't even focus on what every seventh grader read or what every fifth grader read or what every third. I was reading college books as a child about everything, about the world, about relationships, about anything that interests me, because we weren't allowed to have comic books. So, of course, I read the Bible, but I read in my isolation. But I was depressed. And that isolation supported my depression like crazy. It was no way to control it. And if you're a Black male, isolation is part of the government's policy and part of the laws that are written to keep us isolated. It's a dual sword. I don't want to go too far into this, but isolation, I don't know why I'm on that, is why my depression was so strong for over 50 years. 50 years. Let's talk about another one. Man, that was good. Thank you, Lord. That was really, really good. Let's talk about this here. Some of y'all might be able to relate, right? Anger. Lord help us. Lord help us. Lord help us. Anger and depression. I could talk to you about it. I got little time, but I got a lot to say. And the anger that I learned, well, first I was angry about how I was treated, but then the anger that I learned is because most people in my life then were reactional people. And I could say somewhat transactional people. Transactional people mean they only see you when you do what they tell you to do. Or when you give them what they want, or when you abide in the image that they see. I felt something push me on the road right here. Huh? So the anger was because I was depressed, but the anger, the pillars of my anger was because of reaction from folks, family, folks, law enforcement, school. I can go on and on and on. And then the transactional part. So at a very early age, I'm talking about first grade, and I won't go into the incident that happened, but I had my first big problem in public in the first grade. Because remember, transactional, right? Reactional. Reactional, and it starts to say, we don't want you to be like that. We don't want to hear you. We don't want to see you. That used to literally be said, don't want to see you and don't want to hear you. A lot of people grew up that way. Transactional and reactional. If you do something, the punishment goes beyond the mistake or the error or the crime, if we could. Yes, I did spend some time in state school. There was a governor as a child that was locking up Black boys in institutions, running tests on them. I was a part of that for a long time. My parents were not poor. I found out in my 40s. So they couldn't do with me what they really wanted to do. So they were left with only testing me at an early age, folks. Transactional people, reactional people. Reactionable people. Anger. A lot of people blame me for my anger, and we can get to that. Let's get to that now. If all you see is anger, if all you hear is anger, then what are you going to be? Angry. If only the relationship is transactional, you do what I say, when I say, because I say, with no balance, that's going to make you angry. And so later on in life, yes, I reacted. I became a reactionary person. You piss me off, I'm going to piss you off. You go behind my back, I'm going to go behind your back. I was a very, anger leads to revenge. I was very revengeful. I was all about the revenge. I didn't feel protected. I was always upset that I was isolated. I was confused that the punishment always went beyond the crime, legally speaking, punishment beyond the mistake. And I even suffered punishment, watch now, reactional, transactional, from what people thought I did. Oh, yeah. Oh, I could talk about it. And whoever's listening that knows me, I don't worry about what they think. Truth will set us free. So anger and depression became the two most things in my life that nearly wiped me out. It nearly wiped me out. I'm just keeping it 100 with you. It nearly killed me. Suicide attempts many times. Yes. Down. I got so depressed, so angry that I was accused of being angry all the time because I was. Most times I was reactional in my anger, but I was still angry. I learned that from my folk. I learned that from my life, from the police. Always angry at black guys. Treated totally different. I grew up that way. I remember in elementary school, there were several times where there were about to be riots. The whites were on one side. I'm talking about kids, and the blacks was on the other side. Kids in elementary school. We didn't know nothing about no racism, classism, discrimination. I didn't know what the hell that was. I just looked at it and I was scared. But I couldn't leave school. Whites on one side, blacks on the other side, it was an interracial school, about to fight. And I'm not talking about 10 people. I'm talking about hundreds of whites kids on one side, hundreds of black kids on the other side as a child in elementary school. I had a lot to be angry about. Doesn't mean it was right. Let's get to that real quick. Doesn't mean it was right, right? Doesn't mean it was right. But I was angry about a lot of stuff. Why? Because of my soul, my emotion. I didn't know how to handle anything. I could almost rest right there. I didn't know how to handle anything as a child. Everything was to the extreme. If there was peace, it didn't last long. If there was a moment of tranquility, I'm already carrying enough baggage right now to want to just die because I couldn't handle anything. And I used to run avidly until I went to college. I ran. I was a writer and I worked. Started working when I was like 9 years old, professionally as an entrepreneur at 12 years old. Yeah, I started entrepreneurship when nobody else talked about it. I was being about it. What did I say? Did I have support for my work life? Of course. Of course. Everybody loved that about me. So I worked my butt off. Guess what? That's performance driven. I became a performance driven personality. I could get it done. I could get it done, y'all. Imagine my soul. It's conflict. Huh? Imagine. Boy, this is good right here. This is just good. This is just good right here. Talking about your soul life. I became a performance-driven, reaction-driven personality. I was so helpless, I felt, especially as a child, that eventually I became intentionally reckless. I need some help. I mean, who runs away from home and steal a big wheel? That was me. Who walks into a toy store and puts a play gun in their pants as a child? That was me. I'm just saying. You need to investigate who you are becoming, because this soul life is not a joke. There's no way that we can get spirit in there. There's no way we can get spirit in there if your soul ain't right. But the three, now watch this, and I'm going to say this in closing. The three together, working together. That's what the triune life is. It is the spirit working with the soul, and the soul working with the spirit as the lead, and the body working with the soul. Look, I just realized just here recently, no, not trying to be funny, how important water is. So I'll be talking about that too, how I hated my body. Oh yeah, I hated myself. I hated how I looked. I hated everything about me. They talked about my hair because it was curly. It was hard to cut. I hated everything about my body as a child. So imagine to grow up into teenage years. I became a wreck on purpose. I didn't care anymore. I could not handle my emotions. I could not handle the thoughts in my mind. I could not handle my body's evolution. The pimples, I remember one time I won't call the brand, some ointment on 2 or 3 pimples. And I called myself, I'm an all the way guy. I put the stuff all over my face to prevent more pimples, and my entire face broke out in pimples. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, it's tremendous. So I talked about the memories, right? I talked about the mental capacity, right? I talked about the management of emotions, right? I talked about, I think I did talk about the mind. This stuff is for real, y'all. It's for real. For those that don't believe in it, it's for real. I mean, seriously. So when I talk about the triune life, in closing, when I talk about the triune life, right? Let me get this together real quick. When I talk about the triune life, y'all, I'm just simply saying that sinking all of this without your spirit, owning you. See, I had to learn as a teenager, really. I had to start learning. Let me bring that last screen up. I had to learn, right, to have a resolve. Oh my God. I had to learn to have a resolve, y'all. I had to learn to have a resolve. I didn't have a resolve. The learning curve for me was steep. But it was important for me to learn. No more shame, no more fear, no more dread. I feared everybody. I was ashamed of who I was as a human. I dreaded living anywhere. And for us to bring it all into focus, listen, for us to bring it all into focus, I promise you, right? I promise you, for us to bring it all in focus, we got to be honest with ourselves. We got to start being honest with ourselves. The learning curve was steep as a teenager, because then your actions have even more legal complications. Oh my God. The learning curve was even more difficult as a young adult, because now I'm making commitments out of folks. I'm making commitments out of brokenness, job commitments out of brokenness, marriage commitments out of brokenness. I'm telling you, look, y'all, folks, I'm trying to tell you, the triune life is not a joke. It's not a joke. And I'm on here every Sunday sharing a word that you can live. Sometimes it almost leads me to tears to tell you how broken I was. And then later in life, I became broken legally because I was breaking the law. More isolation, more depression, more anger. Juvenile jailbird. Called me Cadillac. If I see you, you call me that. we're going to have a problem. But I'm just saying. And then, when I look back now, it's literally funny how I survived. People say, oh, it was the Lord. No, it was the Lord, but it was God's people, the kindness in people's heart, them therapists, them psychologists, them counselors. It wasn't just the Lord. Some people think the Lord or whoever you're serving solves everything. No, he provides the tools. You got to pick them up and do the inside work, people. You got to do the inside work. I got to go. I got to go. I appreciate you so much. So much. Please don't forget now, follow me anywhere online at Select USA TV. Anywhere. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And then, thank you for watching. You are the bomb. You're the bomb. You're the bomb. Can't say enough about how I'm rooting for you, teaching you from my own scars, trying to show you this could be the best life, but you got to be honest. Whatever you do, be the best and the better you. I'm Marcus. I'm out.